Okay, well, I'm in the process of gluing the top on this. Now this is a double spherical top and back, and it happens to be basically a 00 size. Guitar makers and players alike should know what that means. Now, this is already braced. It's voiced to some extent, basically just based on getting a good low tone when doing that. And there'll be more to come later on. Now I should mention that the way I have this set up is I've got a dish underneath it so that the back is contacting the dish the entire way, and then on top I've got the top fitting into the sides, and I'm going to be using these cowls that have foam on the underside, pretty good thick foam, weather stripping attached there. I've got two sections set up because 3/4 inch plywood does not bend very well, so I've cut it at the waist so that this section glues separate from this section. However, I can still use a clamp, one clamp, to cover both of these, but it just won't be flat. Okay. In fact, we can see there's a rock there. So there's enough bend, enough give on these to get us our arch. We're going to be pushing down directly onto the sides, which are connecting all the way around onto my arched board there. So I'm going to be using fish glue to glue this on with. The reason is that it stays wet longer, and then I can just set these up, get it to stick all the way around. Gives me enough time to use my cam clamps here, 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 all the way around to make sure that I get a good glue joint around the entire surface. So we'll come back after I've got that glued up and the clamps in place, and you can see what that looks like. Okay, now I've got it all glued up. This took me just a couple minutes, and you can see how quickly that went on. Now, if you watched my previous video about how I shape the top, you'll know that these areas here were the low areas. Okay, I mean these were low too, but these were lower. And so because we're using a nice thick foam around the plywood, I went ahead and put clamps there. That pretty much takes care of everything. The foam giving extra push down in the areas where there's no clamps. Now, I still have one thing to do here, and that's clamp these parts here where the body is, or the top is connected to that tongue, and I'll do that right now. So I'll show you that in a second. Okay, and now you can see the clamps that I've got here. There's a small wooden cawl here, and also another one underneath, under the tongue. And that, in conjunction with this along the edge, pretty much gives us a nice tight fit. Lots of glue coming out of the seams. You don't want to starve your glue joints, so you want to have enough glue that kind of seeps out. And you may want to adjust your clamps as time goes on a little bit, because the foam does compress and loses its elasticity a little bit. And in about an hour or two, you can take that off and let it sit for a while. I'll actually do some voicing on the bracing once that comes off, and we'll see what we can do. Now the next step is to put the back on after that, and make sure that the neck is built and fits nicely.